Close your eyes and listen to the silence of a world that no longer exists. Can you hear it? The faint rhythmic scrape of a whetstone against steel. Somewhere deep in the mist-shrouded mountains of 17th century Japan, this is the sound of a man who has lived 1,000 lives in a single breath. A man who never lost a duel, yet found his greatest peace in the stroke of a painting brush. Tonight, we do not just tell a story. We step into the shadow of the lone wolf, Miyamoto Musashi. Before the first lantern is lit, let the weight of your day dissolve into the damp earth of the past. You are safe here, protected by the distance of centuries and the steady rhythm of a legend that refuses to fade. Take a deep, slow breath in, feeling the cool air settle in your lungs like the morning fog over a Kyoto temple. As you exhale, imagine your modern world, the screens, the noise, the endless checklists, dissolving into a soft gray haze. If you find value in these nightly journeys, perhaps consider subscribing to our sanctuary. It ensures that even when the world grows loud, you will always have this quiet path to return to. We are drifting now, away from the neon lights and into a landscape of dark cedar forest and silver moonlight. Here Musashi stands at the edge of a precipice, his worn straw cloak fluttering in a breeze that smells of salt and pine. He is a demon to some, a saint to others, but to us, he is a guide through the labyrinth of the soul. Musashi's life was a paradox etched in bone and ink. He survived 61 duels to the death, walking through blood and fire without ever tasting defeat. Yet, if you looked into his eyes during his final years, you would not see the flicker of a killer. You would see the stillness of a deep mountain lake. He was a philosopher who realized that the sword was merely a bridge to understanding the universe. His spirit transcends the boundaries of time because he mastered the one thing we all struggle with in the quiet hours of the night, the art of being truly alone, yet never lonely. He found the way not in the heat of battle, but in the spaces between the moments. We often imagine that a warrior's greatest victory is the fall of a rival or the conquest of a castle. We see the flash of steel and the glory of the standing man. But as the night grows deeper and the room around you feels warmer, more secure, listen to the secret Musashi left behind. His most profound triumph was won in a place where no blade could reach. It was the moment he silenced the storm inside his own mind. He conquered the chaos of doubt, the hunger of the ego, and the jagged edges of fear until his heart became a mirror of the void. He realized that to master the world, one must first become a master of the silence within. Feel that silence now. It is not an empty quiet, but a rich velvet darkness that wraps around you like a heavy silk kimono. Your limbs are growing heavy, sinking into the mattress as if it were the soft moss of a forest floor. There are no more battles to fight today. The jewels of your own life are paused, held in a gentle stasis. There is only the rise and fall of your chest, mirroring the tide that pulls at the shores of old Japan. You are becoming the stillness that Musashi sought, a part of the vast, unmoving history that we are about to explore. The lanterns are dimming, and the mists are thickening at the base of the jagged hills of the Harima province. The year is 1584, and the air is thick with the scent of rain and ancient cedar. We are leaving the lights of the city far behind, moving toward a small, rugged village, where a wild-eyed child is about to begin a journey that will reshape the meaning of spring forever. Let your mind drift into the gray, where the secrets of the samurai are whispered by the wind through the pine. We travel now to the place where the mist clings to the jagged hills of Harima. Close your eyes once more, and let the gray mists of Harima begin to pull back, slowly revealing a world painted in the muted, bleeding tones of an ancient ink scroll. This is the Sengoku Jidai, the legendary age of warring states. To look upon this era from the safety of your bed is to watch a slow-moving storm, where the boundaries of provinces shift like shadows on a paper screen. Imagine a vast canvas of raw rice paper, where the ink is still wet, spreading in dark, unpredictable pools across the map of Japan. The air here is different. It is thick with the scent of ancient cedar needle, damp earth, and the faint, persistent charcoal of wood smoke rising from 1,000 distant hearths hidden in the valleys. It is a world of exquisite beauty and sudden, sharp edges, a land where the mountains stand as silent, eternal witnesses to the rise and fall of ambitious men. As you drift deeper into this landscape, you can hear the rhythmic clatter of wooden geta sandals on the hard-packed dirt of a narrow village path clack-clack. Clack-clack, a sound that has echoed through these deep valleys for centuries. Listen to that sound. It is steady, hypnotic, marking the passage of time in a world without clock. Above the villages, perched on the jagged shoulders of the hills, are the castles. They are magnificent, tiered fortresses of white stone and dark timber, their curved roofs reaching toward the clouds like the wings of a great heron in mid-flight. Imagine the craftsmanship in every beam, the silence of the long, wooden corridors, and the smell of fresh tatami mat. But even these giants are fragile. In your mind's eye, watch as one castle stands proud in the morning sun, only to become a skeleton of glowing embers by twilight, its glory dissolving into the wind like mountain mist. This was the pulse of the 16th century, a relentless, slow-motion cycle of creation and destruction, where the magnificent was always just a single breath away from becoming a memory. The nights in this era are profoundly unimaginably deep. Without the glare of modern lights, the darkness is a heavy velvet blanket, pierced only by the flickering orange glow of a watchman's paper lantern or the cold silver light of a high mountain moon. In the quiet hamlets, families huddle close to the aurora floor hearths. The soft crackle of the burning wood and the gentle hiss of a cast iron kettle, the only barriers against the vast, whispering wildness outside. You can almost feel the warmth of that small fire on your skin now, a circle of golden safety in a world that is constantly shifting and turning. The sound of the wind through the tall, endless bamboo grows like a long, low sigh of the earth itself, swaying the stalks in a hypnotic rhythmic dance that lulls the weary soul to sleep. There is a strange deep peace in this instability, a realization that when everything is changing, the only thing to do is to settle into the absolute presence of the now. In this era of total war, the logic of the world was often inverted. To seek safety was to find danger. To cling to the old ways was to be swept away by the rising tide of the new. There was a time that demanded a different kind of soul, a spirit tempered in fire and cooled in the mountain stream. The scholars of the time wrote of the fury of the heavens, but the survivors, the ones who would go on to reshape the very soul of Japan, understood a deeper, quieter secret. They realized that in the heart of a terrifying hurricane, there is always a center of absolute stillness. To survive the chaos of the Sengoku, one could not simply hide from the storm or build stone walls against the inevitable. To truly endure, to thrive, and to eventually transcend the madness of the age, one had to become the storm itself. One had to move with the same fluid, unyielding power as the wind and the falling rain, finding a way to be both the force that destroys and the profound silence that follows in its wake. Allow yourself to sink further into that silence now, letting it carry you like a boat on a calm river. The vast, quiet landscapes of feudal Japan stretch out before you under the infinite, star-filled reach of the midnight moon. The silver light spills over the tiered rice paddies, turning them into a shimmering staircase of mirrors reflecting the constellations above. The jagged peaks of the mountains are softened by the night, their harsh outlines blurring into the deep indigo of the sky. There is no urgency here, no clashing of steel, only the soft distant hoot of an owl and the melodic, constant rush of hidden waterfall. Deep in the cedar forest, your body feels as light as a fallen cherry blossom, resting on the surface of a dark pond, drifting slowly, effortlessly, with the ancient current of time. The violence of the age is nothing more than a distant hum, a low vibration that only serves to make the stillness of this moment feel more profound and more secure. The map of Japan is a tapestry of steel and silk, place where a man's life can be bought for a single bowl of rice or sold for a kingdom. Amidst the clashing of great armies and the burning of entire provinces, the universe is focusing its gaze on a single, unremarkable point in Harima Hill. The air here is cold, still, and heavy with the promise of change. The harsh, unforgiving sun of 1584 begins to crest over the jagged horizon, its golden light cutting through the morning frost with the cold precision of a master's blade. In a small drafty room smelling of dry straw, aged wood, and the iron of the earth, quiet is suddenly broken by the first sharp cry of a newborn. This is not a child of peace, but a child of the forge, born to walk between the worlds of men and ghosts. In this world of steel and shifting shadows, a boy named Tegezo opens his eyes to the harsh sun, beginning a journey that will one day lead him far beyond the reach of any sword and into the very heart of the void. In the small, secluded village of Miyamoto, the morning does not begin with the soft, melodic songs of forest birds, but with the rhythmic, heavy thud of a wooden practice sword hitting a straw-wrapped oak. This is the world of Shinmen Manasai, a man whose very name carries the silent weight of mountain stone. To the young Takezo, his father is not a figure of soft whispers, evening stories, or gentle embraces. He is a pillar of unyielding iron, a celebrated master of the jute and the long sword, whose mere presence fills a room like the gathering atmospheric pressure of a summer storm. Imagine standing in a small dim dojo as the first light of dawn filters through the paper screen. The air is cool, heavy, and smells deeply of old cedar, floor wax, and the ghost of ink. There, Manasai stands perfectly unmoving, his eyes as sharp and cold as the frozen edge of a winter pond. He is the absolute anchor in Takezo's world, a man of profound silence and absolute unyielding discipline. His shadow is long and dark, stretching across the straw mats, representing a standard of perfection that seems, to a child, almost impossible to reach, yet vital to pursue. As you settle deeper and deeper into your covers, feeling the warmth of your own sanctuary, imagine the young boy Takezo standing before this iron giant. His small calloused hands are wrapped tightly around a bokken, a heavy practice sword carved from the densest white oak. Feel the texture of that wood in your mind, the slight rough grain, the timber pressing firmly into a young, tender palm, the weight of it making his small forearms ache with a dull, steady, and familiar heat. Training here is not a series of academic lessons. It is a primal ritual of endless repetition. Over and over the boy must strike. The air in the dojo is thick with the air, scent of pine resin, and the salt of sweat. Each movement must be mathematically precise, a perfect line drawn in the air. If his grip falters by a fraction, if his stance wavers by even a hair's breadth under the strain, the stern, resonant voice of his father cuts through the heavy silence like a leather whip. Again, Manasai says, his voice devoid of anger, but filled with gravity. And so, the boy strikes again. The repetition becomes hypnotic, a slow, steady pulse of human effort that gradually blocks out the rest of the world until there is nothing left but the boy, the wood and the iron will of the man watching him from the deep shadows. Listen closely to the sound of this training. It is perhaps the most soothing song of the samurai's early life, a lullaby of discipline. The wooden blade carves through the still air with a low, melodic whistle swish, swish, swift. It is the sound of absolute focus. It is the sound of a young mind slowly becoming one with the physical body. Each swing is a conscious breath. Each breath is a moment of total, unwavering presence. Wish, wish the world outside the village gates, with its distant warring lords, clashing steel, and burning castles, feels 1,000 miles away, like a dream belonging to someone else. Here, in the protective shade of the family estate, there is only the heartbeat of the practice. The sun moves with agonizing slowness across the paper screen, casting long, shifting, golden bars of light across the polished floor. But Takezo does not look at the light. He does not watch the dust motes dancing in the sunbeams. He listens only to the whistle of the wood, He feels the deep vibration of each strike travel up his weary arms and settle in the center of his chest. This is the sacred forge where a soul is shaped. For a long time, the boy feels only the crushing weight of his father's expectations, a spiritual burden that feels as heavy as the iron jet Manisai carries at his belt. He sees only the stern, weathered face, the total lack of easy praise, the relentless daily demand for more strength, more speed, more silence. But as you drift further toward a deep sleep, consider the profound secret hidden beneath that iron exterior. The father's harshness was not born of cruelty or a cold heart, but of a deep, silent, and terrifying love that the boy could not yet comprehend. Monisai knew the world that waited just outside the village gate. He knew with a warrior's certainty that the Sengoku era devoured the weak, the hesitant, and the unprepared. His coldness was, in truth, a secret gift, the construction of a suit of invisible, internal armor. By denying the boy the easy comforts of a self-protected life, he was gifting him the iron of self-discipline. He was being taught, through every bruise and every hour of silence, that the only true safety in a lawless world is the fortress one builds inside oneself. The Iron Father was not breaking the boy's spirit. He was tempering it, turning soft, raw iron into unbreakable, legendary steel. The evening eventually settles over Miyamoto, and the training finally draws to a close. The wooden swords are placed back on their wooden racks for the quiet. Hollow click that signals the day's end. The house grows profoundly still, the only sound being the distant, mournful chime of a bronze bell from a hillside temple, echoing through the mist. Tegeo sits in the deepening shadows, his hands calloused and sore, his heart beating with a strange, restless energy that the day's labor could not exhaust. The discipline of his father has given him a frame, a structure, a sanctuary of immense skill. But even as the village sleeps, tucked safely away under a vast blanket of silver stars and mountain mist, there is a part of the boy that even the iron of Manisai cannot find. Discipline has made him strong, but it has also made him hungry for the distant horizon. The fences of the Miyamoto estate are high, and the traditions of his father run deep, like the roots of the ancient towering cedars that guard the village. They provide safety, they provide a respected name, and they provide a clear, narrow path. But the wind that blows through the bamboo groves tonight carries the sharp scent of salt from the distant, unseen sea and the dry dust of the great road that leads to the heart of the world. It is a wild wind untamed, unpredictable, and full of whispers. And deep within the young warrior, something begins to stir a fire of curiosity and ambition that no amount of discipline can ever truly extinguish. The quiet, predictable life of a provincial samurai is a vessel far too small for the spirit that has been forged in this house of iron. The silence of the village is peaceful, yes, but it is starting to feel like a cage. The wildness in the boy's heart could not be contained by a village fence, and the road is calling his name with a voice that only he can hear. The year is 1596, and a strange electric tension hangs over the small village of Miyamoto, thick and heavy as the humidity before a late summer storm. Into this quiet world of simple farmers and local gentry strides a man who looks as if he were carved from a different, far more dangerous reality. His name is Arima Kihei, a traveling samurai of the esteemed Shinto-ryu school, and he carries himself with the unbearable weight of his own vast reputation. Imagine the sight of him as he moves through the dusty village street. His armor is meticulously polished, catching the afternoon sun in sharp, blinding glint. His swords are not the battered practical tools of a provincial soldier, but masterpieces of silk, gray skin, and folded steel, their scabbards lacquered in a deep, dark, blood-red crimson. He is a man of pride, a man of rigid rules, and a man who has traveled the length of the empire to prove his utter superiority to all. He posts a public challenge on a wooden board at the village crossroads, a formal invitation to anyone brave or foolish enough to face him in single combat. To the older villagers, he is a terrifying omen of sudden violence, But to a 13-year-old boy named Takezo, watching from the tall grass, he is something else entirely. He is the first true door to the infinite world that waits outside. As you breathe in the cool, stabilizing evening air of your own room, imagine the morning of the duel. The sky is a pale, washed-out blue, like a faded ink painting, and the earth beneath Takedo's bare feet is damp and cool from a morning drizzle. The dark, rich soil clinging to his skin with every careful step. There is no cheering crowd here, no grand arena or flags flying in the wind, only a small, dusty clearing near the ancient village shrine, shaded by weeping pine. The silence that falls over the grove is sudden, heavy, and absolute, so profound that you can hear the distant rhythmic drip of water from a single pine needle onto a moss-covered stone. Takezo stands there in the center of the clearing, looking much smaller than his 13 years, dressed in simple, rough cotton that has seen many washings. In his young hands he does not hold a legendary steel blade, but a simple wooden stick, a piece of raw forest timber, unpolished and honest. Across from him, Morima Kihei begins to move. You can hear the faint metallic whisper of cold steel, leaving leather as the samurai draws his sword. The sound is sharp, icy, and final, cutting through the silence like a premonition. Every sense is heightened now, yet you feel strangely, deeply calm. Takezo does not see the red lacquer of the samurai scabbard. He does not truly hear the impressive list of titles and victories that Arima Kihei shouts into the wind. He feels only the subtle weight of the air pressing against his skin. He notices the way the samurai's long shadow stretches across the wet grass, moving like a dark finger toward him. He smells the ozone in the air from the morning rain, and the faint, sweet scent of crushed clover under his own steady feet. When the samurai finally lunges, a terrifying flash of silver aimed directly at the boys, that Takezo does not think. He does not recall the complex patterns his father taught him in the dim, cedar-scented light of the family dojo. Instead, he simply exists in the empty space where the strike is not. The wooden stick moves, not with the rehearsed grace of a dancer, but with the brutal, honest, and inevitable speed of a falling branch in a storm. There is a single hollow crack, the resonant sound of ancient wood meeting bone that echoes through the trees, startling a flight of crows into the gray sky. The entire world seems to hold its breath for a long, shimmering, and suspended moment. Morima Kihei, the man of polished steel and famous lineage, collapses into the damp earth, his pride extinguished in the brief time it takes for a single leaf to hit the ground. In that heartbeat, a profound and life-changing realization settles into Takezo's young mind, a truth more valuable than any secret technique or school event. At 13, amidst the mud and the ringing silence of the shrine, he learned that a famous name, a beautiful sword, and a storied history mean absolutely nothing in the face of a single, focused and pure intent. He realized that a clear, empty mind, one that does not cling to fear, nor to the desperate desire for glory, beats a famous name every single. The chaos of the world can be mastered, he saw, if one is willing to be simpler, faster, and more honest than the enemy. After the brief struggle, a deep restorative stillness settles over the village of Miyamoto, more profound and lasting than any silence that came before. The rush of adrenaline fades away, replaced by a cool, heavy, and comfortable sensation in the limbs. The villagers go back to their homes, their whispers fading into the gathering twilight, leaving the clearing to the growing shadows and the ancient tree. Takezo stands alone as the sun begins to dip below the jagged mountains, painting the clouds in bruised purples and soft, dusty oranges. The damp earth beneath his feet feels solid, supportive, and ancient, as if the land itself were acknowledging his victory. You can feel that same peace flowing into your own body now, a stillness that starts at your toes and moves slowly upward, relaxing every muscle, quieting every racing thought. The violence is over, the lesson is learned, the world is at rest. The boy who walked into that clearing with a wooden stick is not the same person who walks out. As he wipes the dark dirt from his hands and looks toward the darkening limitless horizon, the village of his birth begins to feel like a fading memory from a previous life. He has tasted the raw reality of the world, and there is no turning back to the safety of his father's fences or the predictable rhythms of the farm. With that single decisive strike, Takezo leaves behind the thin skin of his childhood, shedding it like a serpent in the warming sun of spring. He has tasted blood, he has mastered fear, and he has found his own internal truth. The path of the ordinary man is closed to him now, forever. As the first pale stars begin to blink into existence over the Harima hills, Takezo turns his back on the only home he has ever known. He is no longer just a village boy. He is a wanderer, a seeker, and a warrior without a master. He begins the long, solitary, and silent path of the Ronin. Dido yadi labin fantis, kata tutwakin, trashet lanincho, section of 5. The way the Ronin, sosan vat dia, chuchi em ne ke kach b. Mr. Chuyen nahi daosasli. 1. 3. Sosan vat dia kebi jestun GSC and hin, Wapje Orerun, Catch B, Bodimachan Kom, Ko, Term, Vigiancy Tokum, Viastia, Kochuloi, Ronin La, Seeing Heo, Piach Jajigil, Libon Van, Lim, Limwas, Orifigita, Catch Bine, Vian Hadon, Sangisya, Tido Dochoit Togi, Nobin Yes, Eden Chi Jogi, JSC, Kai Hei, Wellman, She, Sui Tan Natra, in Aseza Datin Hat, or Dodiu Naichu, Jian, Nishayan, Da and Ach Dailon, Ara Bidaji and Archi Ara, Genotin Se Artia, Vien, She, Alan, Jian, in the world, Shim. Dovu emule bitin no ayate kao fandogon naila match transition pujanti nen toy duras e si tin ko tin elete ciao tin tion kak shovan do onsi keo dai la seidun nishie te mayo ti sia sia. Moss covered, indigo, rhythmic, effortless. 2, 1. SE unkachap, CDR, Kaun, Enid, the bridge. Jogan, Dia, Adoret no. Logic, Sawan Detbijan, Utipque, Sien, Yen, Yen. Ginyachin, Bin, Sa Fach, Mashwa. Se doi, LFP, Viewer, Mui, Don, Aren, Wild Pine, Va. We sent I, an infant, Van, Van, 3, 1. Yajeti, Vadinuvo, Kash, Bayan, JLC, Odi, Yoan, LNC, Dame, JSC, Tan, Azaga, Vaolest, Kaisera, Musashi, Doga, Go, Gal, Pia, Kwa, Podash, GNP and HN, IP, Keen, non-Fijian Hausa, PHAC, Cash, 1, NYT, Chongval CAN, Yak, CTAAN, System E4, Ada is System, Ba, Lip, Konko 10, Venga Bradan, Up 63, Konko and NC Tai, Jan, Dan, DRP, Jericho Sien, Nien Ba, Anytown, Dogio, Naiju, Deutsche Chong Tai, Alpha, CAI, Naunbeb, Dajian Sao, Badajian Sao, Revan, Siu, Team Trakitea, Character Count Audi, MESCTO Section 5, 6, 500, Text TB 0, Call 14, 204, 500 KTI, Fan Tish. Da Dru Drazidai, Dailin Self-Dadi Se, Louisiane, Ani, Al, An, Kia, Kam, Do, Mol, Ta, Via Zema, Tian VS, Team VS, Veju, Team, NL, Asso, Tia, T, Sti, Do, J, J, I, Y, Yintan, Ongon, and Chin Tia, Linguistic Audit, La Yai Chin, Tia Chin, Pap, Fap, Dian Heshia, Ohan to An Sichiliai, Ngon Hon, Tia Afrian, Narrative English, Teo Chulchero, Kofao, Ho L, Ed, A, DMTA, Long Hai, Tut Enko, Ben Versi Saif, Nanai, Enobu, Jogo, 6, 500 Kiti. The small village of Miyamoto, with its familiar, comforting smells of wood smoke and freshly tilled earth, begins to slowly dissolve into the soft blue haze of the far distance as the young Kakezo climbs the winding, narrow mountain passage. The sounds of his childhood, the sharp barking of village dogs, the rhythmic call of his neighbors, the steady, heavy thud of his father's relentless training all fade into a single, vast and ancient silence. He is only 13 years old, and for the first time in his young life, he truly belongs to no one. He carries no heavy baggage, no confusing maps, and no lingering promises of return. The only physical weight he feels is the constant cold gravity of the sword. Tucked into his waist, a silent reminder of the solitary path he has chosen to walk. But as he finally reaches the crest of the first great mountain ridge and looks out over a boundless sea of cedar and pine, that weight does not feel like a burden at all. It feels like an anchor, grounding his body to the earth even as his spirit begins to soar into the open sky. As you settle deeper and deeper into the softness of your pillow, imagine for a moment the life of the wanderer. There are no restrictive walls here, no paper screens to block out the magnificent vastness of the world. Pegaso's roof is the infinite expanse of the Japanese sky, a canopy of deep velvet indigo studded with stars that look like brilliant grains of spilled salt. When the golden sun dips below the jagged horizon, he does not seek the noise of an inn. He finds a natural sanctuary in the weathered, moss-covered stones, a forgotten forest shrine. Imagine the scent of those sacred places, the damp, sweet smell of decaying autumn leaves, the sharp, refreshing tang of wild mountain mint, and the ancient, stony breath of the mountain itself. He sleeps peacefully on a bed of dry, fragrant pine needles, their warm, resinous scent rising around him in a protective cloud. There is a profound, unshakable safety in this chosen solitude. The world cannot hurt a man who asks for nothing, and the towering mountains offer a kind of protection that no fortress of cold stone could ever hope to match. The rhythms of his days are governed now only by the rising sun and the soft, silver light of the moon. When he is thirsty, he kneels by the edge of a crystal-clear mountain stream, the water so incredibly cold it makes his teeth ache with the clean, sharp vitality. He sits and watches the way the water flows effortlessly around the smooth river stones, never fighting them, always finding the path of least resistance with a quiet, persistent grace. In the heavy heat of the long afternoon, he sits perfectly still under the deep shade of a massive ginkgo tree, listening to the relentless, hypnotic and vibrating drone of the cicada. The sound is like a shimmering wave in the warm air, a wall of noise that somehow, paradoxically, creates an even deeper internal quiet within his soul. Zzz. The sound fills his mind completely until his thoughts stop racing, until he is nothing more than another drifting shadow in the forest, another steady heartbeat in the great breathing wilderness of old Japan. Feel that same vibration in your own body now, a humming calmness that settles into your bones, letting your mind go quiet, letting the world outside fade into nothingness. For many years he had been told by the elders that a man without a lord was a ghost, a weighted man tossed about helplessly by the cold tides of fate. He had been taught from birth that true safety lay only in service, and that a man's identity was something granted only by the hand of a master. But as he walks these lonely, beautiful trails, a new and startling truth begins to bloom in the deep silence of his heart. He realizes that to have no master is not a tragedy to be feared. It is the ultimate, most sacred liberation. To have no one to obey is to be the true master of your own destiny. In the honest emptiness of his pockets and the total solitude of his long journey, he finds a hidden wealth that the richest daimyo in the capital could never hope to understand. He is the sole author of his own movement, the patient architect of his own growing soul. He is not lost in the wilderness. He is finally, for the first time, exactly where he is meant to be. Focus now on the sound of the journey itself, a sound that carries you further into the world of dreams. It is a steady, rhythmic, and deeply grounding song of the earth. The crunch of his straw sandals on the mountain gravel step. Crunch, step, crunch is a natural metronome for his very soul. The gentle wind catches the tops of the bamboo groves, creating a dry, melodic and shimmering rustle that sounds like the earth itself, whispering ancient secrets to anyone who will listen. Shh! The tall green stalks sway in perfect unison, bowing deeply to the invisible, graceful power of the breeze. Your own breathing begins to match this steady rhythm, becoming slow, deep, and effortless. The world is moving, the seasons are shifting, and the traveler is walking. But at the center of it all, there is a single point of absolute, unmoving peace within you. You are walking with him, feeling the strength in your legs and the absolute clarity in your mind, drifting through a world where every single step is a quiet prayer of gratitude. The mountain trails eventually begin to widen, and the sharp, wild scent of the mountain pine is slowly replaced by the complex, distant aromas of a civilization in constant motion. The isolation of the high peaks is behind him now, and the air grows noticeably warmer as the path descends into the great fertile valleys below. The road is long, stretching out like a ribbon of dusty silk across the golden heart of the empire, and it eventually leads to the massive towering wooden gates of the great capital, Kyoto. Behind those legendary gates lies a city of 1,000 temples, a city of high art, delicate silk, and deadly politics, the next great stage of a journey that is only just beginning to unfold. Let the sound of the wind in the bamboo carry you effortlessly toward the horizon, toward the city of silk and shifting shadows, where the legend will truly begin to take its final shape. You are almost there. Just keep walking, breathing in, drifting into the deep, welcoming dark. The massive, blackened wooden gates of the Yashoka dojo stand like a silent. For generations, this house has been the gold dog Yugin of swordsmanship, the official instructors to the shogunate, a name whispered with both deep reverence and a cold, underlying fear. Their high walls are thick with the accumulated pride of 100 years of undefeated lineage, reinforced by the social standing of the capital's elite. But today, a stranger stands before those imposing gates, a man with no famous name, no fine silk robes, and no master to vouch for his honor. Miyamoto Musashi does not come with an army. He comes with a single, devastating challenge, sprawled in bold, unapologetic ink on a simple wooden board. Imagine the collective, sharp intake of breath in the city of Kyoto as the news spreads like wildfire through the refined tea houses and the crowded, bustling market. The prestige of the Yoshioka is being called into immediate question by a wolf from the mountain, a Ronin who smells of pine needles and travel dust. As you settle into the profound, unshakable safety of your own room, feel the immense weight of this historical confrontation. It is not merely a fight between two men, it is the violent, inevitable collision of a rigid, frozen past with a fluid, unstoppable future. The air in the capital grows heavy, humid, and perfectly still, as if the ancient city itself is bracing for the impact of the new legend. The first duel is set to take place at the Hachiman Shrine, beneath the skeletal, sprawling branches of a giant, ancient pine tree. As the hour approaches, a light, powdery snow begins to fall from a leaden, gray sky, dusting the world in a thin layer of white silence. Imagine the cold, crisp air biting gently at your skin, the silence so sharp and brittle that it feels like thin glass. Tsuyoro, the refined head of the Yoshioka house, arrives with the effortless elegance of a prince. His every movement is dictated by centuries of formal etiquette, his grip on his sword a testament to thousands of hours of orthodox practice. Across from him, Musashi is a jagged shadow against the pristine white snow. His stance unconventional, his eyes containing the wild clarity of a hawk. Time begins to stretch and warp, slowing down until every single heartbeat feels like an entire age. You can see the individual flakes of snow drifting lazily between the two combatants, spinning slowly in the frigid winter air. The world narrows down to a single point of focus. When the blades finally move, it is not a chaotic flurry of motion, but a single crystalline moment of absolute truth. A sudden flash of silver steel, a soft, muffled thud in the deepening snow, and the invincible lineage of the Yashoka is shattered in a heartbeat. Seiyuro, the master of the capital, has fallen. The silence that follows is deeper and more heavy than the winter itself a restorative. Velvet quiet that covers the shrine like a white shroud. In this moment, the city learns that tradition is no shield against the man who has made the void his home. But the house of Yoshioka does not accept such a public defeat with grace or humility. They seek a desperate reckoning, a bloody restoration of their family name. First comes the brother, then Chichiro, who falls just as swiftly. And finally, the clan orchestrates a massive final ambush at the legendary pine tree of Ishijoji. Imagine the scene in the deep, black hours of the night, long before the first hint of dawn. Dozens of armed men archers, swordsmen, and spearmen hide in the tall, whispering grass, and behind the ancient stone walls of the temple, waiting for a single man to walk blindly into their carefully laid trap. The scent of damp earth, crushed weeds, and the charcoal smoke of distant watchfires hangs heavy in the cold night air. Musashi, however, does not arrive from the main road as they expect. He does not play by the rules of their ambush. He appears suddenly from the deepest shadows, a ghost born of the dark, striking before the trap can even be sprung. Duel becomes a slow-motion dance of survival amidst the tree. Feel the cool, night breeze as it ripples through the tall grass, swaying the stalks like the waves of a dark sea. Listen to the rhythmic, metallic sheen of blades meeting in the dark, a sound that is surprisingly melodic, almost like silver bells ringing in a distant, forgotten valley. Musashi moves through the crowd of enemies, not like a man fighting for his desperate life, but like a river flowing effortlessly around heavy obstacles, fluid, inevitable, and impossible to catch. In the very midst of this chaotic and deadly ambush, a profound realization blossoms in the center of the warrior's mind, a reveal that changes the nature of his existence forever. He realizes that true strategy is not about the physical strength of the arm or the legendary sharpness of the blade. It is the sophisticated art of deception and the mastery of psychological timing. Strategy, he understands now, is the art of moving with absolute, terrifying purpose at the very moment the enemy expects you to remain still, and remaining as still as an unmoving mountain when they expect you to panic and move. It is about breaking the expected rhythm of the world to create a rhythm of your own. As he dismantles the ambush, he is not just fighting men. He is playing with the very fabric of time, expectation, and fear. He has become the master of the void, that sacred space where thought and action become a single, seamless, and unbreakable thread. As the last echoes of the struggle finally fade into the Kyoto night, thick clouds part and the moon breaks through, casting a brilliant silver light over the silent battlefield. Focus your mind now on a single peaceful image. The cold, pale moonlight reflecting off the mirror-like surface of Musashi's katana. In this light, the steel is no longer a weapon of death. It has become a work of sublime art, a sliver of captured starlight held in a human hand. The blade is perfectly still now, resting back in its wooden scabbard with a quiet, final click. The silver light spills over the dark, weathered wooden gates and the quiet temple eaves, turning the world into a soft landscape of shadows and dreams. Feel the silver light washing over you now, cooling your tired mind and relaxing every single inch of your body. The tension of the story has dissolved into a profound, shimmering peace that radiates from the center of your chest. The city of Kyoto sleeps in the aftermath of the storm, and you sleep with it, cradled in the protective, ancient silence of history. The house of Yoshioka is a memory, and the path ahead is clear. Having broken the most prestigious house in Japan, Musashi realizes he is no longer just a fighter seeking a hollow win. He has stepped forever beyond the role of the swordsman and entered the realm of the seeker. The path ahead is no longer about the death of others, but about the slow, beautiful birth of a new understanding. He is becoming a philosopher of the blade, and the road now leads toward the ultimate golden silence of the spirit. The fierce electric adrenaline of the Kyoto night has long since faded into the distance, leaving behind a profound, heavy, and comfortable quiet that settles deeply into the very marrow of the bone. In the long aftermath of the Yoshioka reckoning, Miyamoto Musashi does not seek out more blood, nor does he celebrate his legendary victory in the crowded, noisy safe dens of the capital. Instead, he retreats into the deep, emerald-green silence of the distant mountain, seeking a different kind of sharpness, a sharpness of the soul. Imagine him sitting in a small, weathered, thatched hut temple. The sliding paper doors thrown wide open to a private garden of perfectly raked sand and ancient twisted pines that have seen 1,000 winters. The warrior has found a new weapon, one that requires no lethal edge, but possesses an infinite spiritual depth. The delicate bamboo brush and the deep, midnight black of the carved inkstone. As you lie there now, feeling the comforting weight of your limbs sinking further into the mattress, visualize him sitting perfectly still in the amber light. He is no longer a man of cold steel. He is a man of shadow and light, a seeker trying to capture the elusive soul of the world on a single fragile sheet of white rice paper. The ritual of the art is a profound meditation in itself, a slow and deliberate process that mirrors the steady, calming rhythm of your own breathing. He takes a solid stick of soot and compressed pine and begins to grind it slowly against the wet stone, adding just a few drops of clear, cold mountain water. Listen to the sound in your mind, a low, rhythmic, and incredibly grounding scritch, 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 as the black ink slowly forms in the base. It is a hypnotic, repetitive sound, a primal vibration that clears the mind of all remaining clutter and worry. The movement of his arm is circular, endless, and peaceful. When the ink is finally ready, thick and dark as a moonless night, he dips the fine, soft hairs of the brush into the dark pool. He holds the bamboo handle not with the white-knuckled tension of a fighter, but with the fluid, breathing readiness of a master. The paper before him is a vast, unblemished white void, as silent and expectant as the moments just before a summer dawn. There is no room for doubt or hesitation here. Once the brush touches the delicate paper, the mark is permanent and eternal. It is a duel with the self, played out in the silent space of a single, long exhale. Watch with your mind's eye as he begins to move, his hand guided not by muscle, but by an internal, silent wind. With one swift, decisive, and graceful stroke, a jagged mountain peak emerges from the white mist of the paper. It is not a detailed map, but the pure essence of a mountain strong, unmoving, and existing for 10,000 years. Another subtle flick of the wrist, and a lone, resilient pine tree clings to a rocky crag, its branches reaching out like the weathered hands of an old friend. The ink flows onto the rice paper in varying, beautiful shades of gray and deep black, sometimes thick and bold, sometimes as faint and ethereal as a fading memory. He paints a small, delicate bird perched on a single withered branch, capturing the precise, shimmering moment of its absolute stillness before it takes flight into the void. The way the wet ink bleeds slowly into the natural fibers of the paper is exactly like the way sleep slowly bleeds into your own consciousness, softening the edges of the world, blurring the lines of time and pulling you gently into a landscape of pure, unadulterated feeling. In this quiet, sacred room, surrounded by the faint scent of old paper and the smell of wet earth after a rain, a profound reveal begins to illuminate the darkest corners of Musashi's heart. He looks at the mountain he has just painted, and then he looks at the heavy sword resting quietly at his side, and he realizes a truth that few in this world will ever truly grasp. He sees that the path of the sword and the path of the brush are, in their purest and most honest form, exactly one and the same. Both require a mind that is entirely empty of ego. Both require a heart that does not tremble in the face of the unknown. Whether one is drawing a steel blade to protect a life, or drawing a black line to capture the soul of a bird, the source of the power is the identical. It is the void. He realizes that art is not an escape from the warrior's difficult life, but the ultimate, most beautiful perfection of it. To master the brush is to truly understand the spirit of the sword. To master the sword is to finally see the poetry in every single movement of the vast universe. The atmosphere of the temple is one of total, restorative focus, a Zen sanctuary that exists entirely outside the reach of time. Focus your mind on the delicate, scratching sound of the brush as it dances and glides across the paper. Shh, shh. It is the sound of a mind at total, blissful peace with itself. The air in the room is cool, still, and thin, carrying the faint, earthy aroma of the ink and the clean, bracing scent of the mountain forest outside. Musashi sits in the very center of this stillness. His posture is grounded and unmoving as the ancient stones in the garden. Every single muscle in his body is completely relaxed, yet his spirit is vibrantly, quietly awake. You can feel this same calm focus settling over you now. A gentle, invisible pressure behind your eyes that invites them to stay closed, heavy and warm. The world of conflict, of loud names and hollow titles, of winners and losers, feels like a distant, fading dream. There is only the ink, the paper, and the long, slow, and rhythmic exhale of a soul finally finding its true center. The sun begins to set behind the jagged peaks, casting long, amber and purple shadows across the tatami mats. And Musashi sets his brush down for the final time today. The ink is dry, and the mountain on the paper seems to pulse with a subtle life of its own. He has found a sanctuary in the earth, a place where the mountain wolf can finally rest his weary traveling head. But even in this state of profound and hard-won grace, the relentless tide of history is already beginning to pull at the shores of his peace. The silence of the mountain temple is deep, but far across the distant churning waters on a far-off misty shore. A name is being whispered in the dark. A rival, a man of equal genius and of very different, colder intent, is waiting. The world, with its insatiable hunger for legend and blood, will not let the wolf rest forever. The ink is still barely wet on his masterpiece, but the wind outside is changing, carrying the sharp scent of salt and the cold iron promise of the final encounter. One final rival waits on a distant, fog-shrouded shore, and the path of destiny is calling his name once more. The mist of the early morning clings to the surface of the Kanban Straits like a heavy, silver shroud blurring the line between the sky and the churning sea. Today is a day that history has been waiting for, the final convergence of two legendary paths. Miyamoto Musashi sits in the back of a small, weathered wooden boat. The rhythmic sound of the water lapping against the hull spar. Splash, splosh acting as the only heartbeat in the vast gray silence. While the world holds its breath, Musashi is the picture of absolute, terrifying calm. He is not polishing a steel blade or reciting prayers for victory. Instead, he holds a spare wooden oar in his calloused hand. With a small, simple knife, he begins to carve the wood, the curls of cedar falling into the bottom of the boat like autumn leaves. Listen to the sound of the blade shaving the timber, a dry, steady shish that harmonizes with the pulse of the tide. As you drift further into the stillness of your own mind, imagine the focused intent in every stroke of that carving knife. Musashi is not just shaping a weapon, he is carving away the last remnants of his own ego. He is turning a tool of labor and ore meant for the sea into a tool of destiny. He is late for the jewel, purposely letting the sun rise higher, letting the tide shift, and letting his opponent's patience fray in the salt air. But in his own heart, there is no rush, no anxiety, and no fear. He is as fluid and patient as the water beneath him. The boatman rows with a steady, hypnotic pace, each pull of the oar sending a gentle vibration through the wood, a vibration that you can feel settling into your own limbs, grounding you, calming you, and preparing you for the final shore. The salt spray of the ocean hits his face, cool and bracing, carrying the scent of deep-sea kelp and distant storm. The world of Kyoto, the Ashoka, and the mountain temples are all behind him now. Ahead lies only a small, sandy strip of land known as Ganryujima, the boat island. It is a place of white sand and jagged rocks, standing solitary amidst the swirling current. Musashi looks at the wooden sword he has fashioned from the ore. It is rough, unpolished, and heavy, yet in his hands it feels lighter than air. He has realized that the finest steel in Japan cannot match the power of a mind that has truly embraced the void. As the boat nears the island, the sound of the breaking waves grows louder, a deep, rolling roar that sounds like the earth itself, breathing in and out. Pa-hoo, pa-hoo. Let your breath match the rhythm of the tides, slow and deep, as the boat finally touches the soft, yielding sand of the shore. Waiting on the white sands of Ganryujima is Saki Kojiro, the demon of the western provinces. He is the perfect antithesis to Musashi, elegant, dressed in fine red silk, and wielding the laundry-drying pole, a breathtakingly long and beautiful blade of the finest steel. Kojiro is a master of the swallow cut, a strike so fast it is said to strike down a bird in mid-flight. As Musashi steps off the boat, his hair wild and his clothes stained with salt, the contrast is absolute. The two men stand at the edge of the water, the tide swirling around their ankles, the white foam of the sea bubbling and hissing as it recedes back into the depths. The world narrows down to this single strip of sand, this single moment of cosmic alignment. The duel itself is a cinematic blur of motion, yet in your mind, it unfolds with the slow, graceful clarity of a dream. Kojiro draws his long sword, the steel singing a high, cold note. As it leaves the scabbard, he throws the scabbard into the waves, a gesture of finality. Musashi smiles a small, knowing smile, and speaks his only words. Kojiro, you have lost. If you were to win, you would have need of your scabbard. In that single sentence, the reveal of a lifetime's wisdom is laid bare. Musashi understands that victory is not won when the blades clash. It is won before the swords are even drawn, through the power of a quiet, unshakable spirit. He has already mastered the space between. He has already seen the end when the strike comes. It is faster than the eye can follow, yet perfectly still in the soul. Kojiro's steel flashes like lightning, aiming for the narrow space of Musashi's brow. But Musashi moves like the tide, effortless, heavy and inevitable. He leaps into the air, the sun behind him blinding his opponent for a fraction of a heart. The heavy wooden oar descends with the weight of a falling mountain. There is no metallic ring this time, only the dull, final thud of wood meeting truth. The swallow cut has met its match in the spirit of the oar. As Kojiro falls to the sand, the great silence of the island returns, more profound and lasting than ever before. The waves continue to lap against the shore hiss. Retreat. Hiss, retreat, erasing the footprints of the struggle, washing the sand clean and white once again. The duel is over, and with it, the era of the wandering swordsman reaches its sunset. Musashi does not linger to savor his fame. He bows to his fallen rival, boards his small boat, and begins to row away as the tide turns. Focused now on the soothing, repetitive visual of the moonlight reflecting off the white sand of Ganryujima as it fades into the distance. The water of the straits is a deep, tranquil blue, mirroring the vastness of the sky above. Every muscle in your body is now heavy, warm, and completely relaxed. The sword, the fame, and the battles are all falling away, sinking into the deep, dark waters of the past. After Ganryujima, the sword of Musashi falls silent forever. He has found the answer he was seeking in the mountains and the ink. The fighter has died and the spirit has begun its final, peaceful ascent into the light of pure understanding. You are drifting now, floating on that same quiet tide, moving toward a horizon, perfect, unbroken. The storm of the islands and the echoes of the capital have finally subsided, leaving behind a world that feels vast, ancient, and remarkably still. We find Miyamoto Musashi, now in the twilight of his long journey, not on a battlefield, but in the mouth of the Rigando cave. The air here is cool, smelling of damp stone and the faint, sweet scent of mountain cedar. He sits in the perfect silence, his aged hands no longer gripping a sword, but holding a simple brush. Before him lies his final gift to the world, the Book of 5 Rings. As you breathe in the quietude of this moment, imagine the 5 elements he described, each one a layer of wisdom settling over your mind like a soft blanket. He writes of the earth, the solid foundation of our existence, of water, the fluid adaptability of the soul, of fire, the intense heat of our passions, and of wind, the invisible traditions that shape us. But finally, he speaks of the void, the 5th element, the space where all things begin and end. To understand the void is to understand the ultimate state of being empty and yet ready for any challenge that life may present. Imagine your mind as a vast, clear mirror, reflecting everything but clinging to nothing. Musashi teaches us that to be truly strong, one must be like the empty space inside a vessel. It is the emptiness that makes the vessel useful. When your mind is empty of fear, empty of ego, and empty of the need to prove yourself to others, you will become invincible. Not because you cannot be struck, but because there is no self there for the blow to land upon. You are like the wind passing through the trees, or the moonlight resting on the surface of a deep, dark lake. You are present, you are aware, but you are utterly at peace. Feel this emptiness now, not as a lack of something, but as a boundless, quiet freedom that allows every muscle in your body to finally, completely let go. In this profound state of relaxation, a final, shimmering reveal begins to illuminate your consciousness. You realize that the battles Musashi fought across the length of Japan were never truly about the men he faced. They were symbols of the internal struggle we all carry within us. You are the master of your own internal battleground. Your mind is the ultimate blade. The enemies of anxiety, doubt, and restlessness are not defeated by force, but by the quiet clarity of the spirit that refuses to be shaken. You do not need a sword of steel or a wooden oar to find your victory. You only need the stillness of your own breath and the courage to look into the void and find peace. You are the architect of your own silence, the guardian of your own dream, and the hero of your own long, beautiful journey toward the light. Listen now to the low, resonant hum of the cave, a sound that feels like the very heartbeat of the earth itself. The mountain is holding you, protecting you, and guiding you toward a state of total mental peace. Every thought that enters your mind is like a single drop of ink falling into a vast ocean. It colors the water for a moment, and then it is gone, dissolved into the infinite blue. There is nothing left to do, nowhere left to go, no one left to be. The weight of the day has been carved away, leaving only the light, ethereal essence of who you truly are. Your eyes are heavy, your heart is steady, and your soul is as vast and quiet as the stars above the Harima Hill. The road ends exactly where it began, in the profound, sacred silence of a cave. The cycle is complete. The warrior has become the sage. The movement has become the stillness, and the story has become a dream. As Musashi closes his eyes in the Rigando cave, he sees not the blood of his past, but the golden light of the eternal present. The viral loop of history continues to spin, but you have stepped off the wheel. You are drifting now, floating in the center of the five rings, cradled by the elements and surrendered to the void. Sleep now, for the battle is won, the path is clear, and the silence is yours to keep. The road is gone, there is only the dark, the peace, and the deep, deep breath. The journey of 1,000 miles, of 60 duels, and of a lifetime of searching, finally brings us here to the mouth of the Redondo Cave, the cave of the Spirit Rock. High on the slopes of Mount Iwato, the air is thin, pure, and carries the scent of ancient stone and cold morning mist. Imagine yourself stepping slowly into this sacred space, leaving the bright, busy world of men far behind you. The entrance is framed by the dark, reaching branches of cedar tree, their needles whispering in a wind which you can no longer feel. As you move deeper into the cave, the light of the afternoon begins to soften, turning from gold to a deep, bruised purple, and finally into the warm, protective embrace of shadow. This is where Miyamoto Musashi, the greatest swordsman the world has ever known, has chosen to spend his final days. He is not here to fight. He is here to breathe, to pray, and to write the final lines of his life's work. Feel the environment of the cave settling around you like a heavy, velvet cloak. The walls are made of cold, solid rock, ancient and unmoving, reaching deep into the roots of the mountain. Touch the stone in your mind. It is damp and smooth, holding the stillness of 1,000,000 years. In the center of this darkness, a single candle flickers on a low wooden table. The flame is small, steady and warm, casting long, dancing shadows that play across the uneven ceiling. The light does not fight the darkness. It lives within it, a tiny point of consciousness in a vast, peaceful sea. Watch the way the wax slowly melts, a rhythmic, silent process that mirrors the way your own remaining thoughts have dissolved. The air here is perfectly still. There is no sound of wind, no sound of water, only the deep, resonant pulse of the mountain's heart. Every breath you take is synchronized with this pulse, slow, effortless, and infinitely deep. Musashi sits before the candle, his body as grounded as the rock beneath. He is no longer a warrior of motion, but a warrior of presence. As he dips his brush into the ink for the very last time, a final beautiful reveal begins to unfold in the quiet chambers of his heart. He looks back at his life, the blood, the steel, the fame, and the long roads, and he sees it all as a single unfolding work of art. He realizes that death is not a terrifying ending, nor is it a defeat. Instead, it is the final, perfect stroke of the brush on the masterpiece that is finally complete. It is the moment where the ink meets the paper and then rests forever. He sees that the sword was just a tool to find the spirit, and now that the spirit is found, the tool can be laid down. There is no fear in this realization, only a sense of profound, crystalline completion. The masterpiece is finished, and it is beautiful. The pacing of the world slows down now to a near halt. Focus on the dark, warm safety of this cave. It is a womb of stone, a place where you are completely shielded from the demands of time and the weight of your own name. Lives, yea. The darkness here is not empty. It is full of peace. It is a soft, heavy blanket that covers your shoulders, your chest, and your tired limbs. You are sinking now, deeper into the earth, moving past the layers of memory, and into the silent core of your being. The candle flame grows smaller and smaller, a tiny spark of gold in the vast, welcoming black. The scent of the mountains, the pine, the cold stone, and the fading incense wraps around you, soothing every nerve, quieting every cell. You are safe, you are held, you are exactly where you are meant to be. The light of the candle finally sighs and goes out, leaving only the perfect, velvety blackness of the Spirit Rock Cave. The silence is absolute, a physical presence that hums with the frequency of the universe. The story of Miyamoto Musashi has reached its end, and your own story is drifting into the realm of dream. The way of the warrior, the way of the brush, and the way of the void have all led to this single moment of total surrender. There are no more roads to walk, no more challenges to face, and no more thoughts to hold on to. The mountain is sleeping, the cave is silent, and the ink is dry. Rest now, traveler, the journey is over. The way is yours, fading into black, fading into silence. Rest now.